kaun banega challenger? Can the opposition find a Prime Minister face for 2024? Does Nitish's entry really now strengthen the opposition? Is 2024 really a done deal for the BJP? Or are the permutations and combinations now changing once again? I am joined today by someone who knows Nitish Kumar also very well. He's been National General Secretary, close aide of Nitish Kumar, was once in the JDU, now with the TMC. Author Pawan Kumar Verma with me, former MP of the Rajya Sabha from the JDU. Sanjay Kumar, co-director Lokniti, is also joining us, one of the country's leading psephologists. Rajat Sethi is author and political analyst who's been close to the BJP. Thank you all very much for joining me. Before I come to you, we did a Bihar snap poll with C Voter. And that poll is giving us interesting findings because it's showing that if Lok Sabha elections are held today, the NDA, which got 54% vote in 2020, would now be down to 41. From 2019, 54 down to 41. The Mahagathbandhan would go up from 31% to 46. So a huge jump as a result of Nitish joining. Seat share. And this is interesting because remember, the Modi-led BJP swept Bihar in 2019. They won 39 out of 40 seats then. But now, with these new equations, they would be down to 14 and the Mahagathbandhan to 26 as per this poll. So the caste arithmetic is very strong. And then there is the Tejashwi Yadav factor. Tejashwi Yadav, according to this poll, would emerge as the preferred next CM. 43% for him, Nitish 24%, and any BJP leader 19%. One more data point that I want to give is about Prime Minister. We have also asked in this poll, who is your preferred choice for Prime Minister? And when we've asked that question about Prime Minister, Mr. Modi and the BJP, who don't do as well in terms of seats at the moment compared to 2019, Narendra Modi is still the preferred choice for Prime Minister. In that stakes, you will see Mr. Modi 44%, Nitish 22%, Rahul Gandhi 18%, others 17%. So how are we to see not just these poll findings, but all that has happened in Bihar in the last few days? Pawan Verma, how do you see Nitish Kumar? He hinted today that Patna today, Delhi tomorrow. Is it now back to 2013 when again there was talk of Nitish Kumar emerging as this so-called secular challenger to Mr. Modi? Do you see history repeating itself?
You know, there is a difference between 2013 and what may be the situation in 2024. In 2013, after the relatively lackluster second term of the UPA, Narendra Modi came like a prince on a white horse, promising the voters a stable government and a strong leadership. And the contrast was very stark. And people voted for Narendra Modi. Now, what is likely to happen today or in 2024 is that essentially Mr. Narendra Modi's USP today is that the opposition is fragmented and there is no face which can be projected against him, because there are very strong and legitimate discontents among the people. The opposition has the potential to challenge the BJP because the BJP is essentially a party that rules 49% of India and derives its maximum number of seats above the Vindhyas, where its principal opponent has been the Congress, and its strike rate against the Congress so far has been 96%. However, if the opposition has possibly a new face, an organizational plan which is pan-Indian, and the ability to come together unitedly to take on the BJP, it makes 2024 far from a done deal. Because today, people are tired of the BJP deflecting attention from real issues by the use of Hindutva and religious bigotry or hyper-nationalism.
But that's not shown. I must stop you. That is not shown in any poll. With due regard, Mr. Verma, we just had elections at the start of the year, including in Uttar Pradesh, where the BJP, for the first time in more than 3 decades, the government was re-elected. So when you say that people are tired of being deflected by Hindutva, by religious bigotry, on the ground, the BJP is winning elections. So are we seeing simply what happens in Bihar today is not necessarily going to happen in India tomorrow? Bihar may well be sui generis.
I agree with you. But I am saying that the manner in which the entire opposition, in spite of past contradictions, has united in Bihar is a template for an opposition across the country which knows either you hang together or you hang separately. And that is a situation which the BJP has created. Even in UP, if I may dare say, if Mr. Akhilesh Yadav had co-opted one more constituency in addition to the Muslims and the Yadavs, the BJP would have got a fight. In fact, Mr. Akhilesh Yadav increased his seats substantially. So therefore, what the opposition needs is better grassroots planning, better coordination, a better pan-Indian systemic network, and a face and a narrative. And the reasons for the narrative exist because there is today, as I said earlier, very legitimate discontents on the ground. Whether it's price rise, whether it's unemployment, whether it's the authoritarian nature of the regime, whether it is the endemic instability caused by the BJP's desire to reap short-term political dividends by creating communal divide. There is today a sense that Mr. Narendra Modi's essential USP is the absence of a credible challenger.
And you believe that Nitish Kumar is that credible challenger? Very quickly before I move on, you believe Nitish Kumar is that? I'm giving his strengths. Look at all his strength. No serious corruption charge, is a OBC, is from the Hindi heartland, is not a dynast. Do you believe that Nitish Kumar is that challenger? Yes or no?
I think he could be, but that depends on him. He said today in his press interaction that "Main davedar nahi hu." But he also hinted that perhaps the results of 2024 can be different. And that shows that with all the factors you mentioned, including the fact that he has been minister for 17 years, that he is a powerful personality in Bihar, even though anti-incumbency may have diminished his stature somewhat. And his ideological credentials, except for that compromise with the BJP in 2017.
I'm having a slight problem with your audio, but I think our viewers have got the sense that you're making. You are claiming that there is an absence of a credible challenger. Nitish Kumar could emerge as one. Sanjay Kumar, you've tracked Bihar and national politics for years. I listed all the strengths and weaknesses of Nitish Kumar. The strengths I mentioned, the weaknesses are that he doesn't seem to have, at least for now, or never shown any pan-India connect, no youth connect. As a communicator, he is perhaps non-charismatic, if I may use that word. Do you see him as a credible challenger? Do you believe Nitish Kumar wants to go beyond Patna to Delhi this time?
Rajdeep, you are asking two questions. Does Nitish Kumar want to go beyond Patna and reach Delhi? Yes, I think intentions are very clear. Maybe he is not expressing it explicitly that he wants to be the challenger to Narendra Modi at the center. But I think yes, he do want to challenge Narendra Modi at the center in 2024. The second part of the question is, does he have the ability? Will he be a good challenger to Modi? I don't think that he is going to be a very good challenger to Modi. When I say good challenger, maybe among the available leaders who can be a possible challenger, he is one of the better challengers. He may be one of the better challengers. But if you compare the two leaders, Narendra Modi and Nitish Kumar, if you look at the popularity, Nitish Kumar's popularity is on the decline. Yes, he is known across many states of the country, but his popularity is limited to Bihar. That too, his popularity is on the decline compared to Nitish Kumar's popularity, what it used to be in 2014, 15. That has declined a lot.
So you're saying he's a leader on the
election.
You're saying he's a leader.
Surveys.
Yes, you're saying he's a leader on the decline. You're saying the surveys have shown he's a leader on the decline. Interesting that therefore perhaps
his popularity is on the decline.
Okay.
Rajdeep, these are two different things. A leader is on the decline or popularity is on the decline. How do people perceive you? I think people perceive him as a declining leader in a sense. His popularity is on the decline. Popularity is on the decline.
Okay. Rajat Sethi, your sense has, as we showed the earlier numbers, Bihar is one of those states where the BJP swept in 2019. And Mahagathbandhan poses a very different challenge. And therefore, this Nitish formula, perhaps of bringing together as many like-minded parties together, does pose a potential challenge to 2024, is it not?
I think, Rajdeep ji, in the run-up to 2024, we should not jump the gun. There are solid 2 years before that where Nitish Kumar has to handle this very complicated alliance. He is a diminished person coming out of this alliance. Will he get the respect? He will largely be a de facto, he will not be the de facto sort of face of this alliance, Tejashwi will. He will continue to be the titular head, what Sushil Modi ji has been mentioning in various press conferences today. So the first thing that he has to struggle with and come out as a victorious person from the struggle is going to be, how does he keep his stature intact in Bihar itself? Right. With that upsurge of Tejashwi Yadav, he will not be the same Tejashwi who was still politically naive back when he allied with Nitish Kumar. He's an astute man. Right. He has shown credible political understanding of the state of Bihar the moment he came out with a caste-based census demand, and he ensured that he puts cat among the pigeons by the way he maneuvered that political situation. He literally forced Nitish Kumar to accept to his principal demand of conducting that census. I believe it will be a tough 2 years before Nitish Kumar. That's number one. Number two, we have seen mother of all Mahagathbandhans in Uttar Pradesh in 2019 election. We saw how Samajwadi and PSP came together. It was an absolutely formidable alliance. Any psephologist would have found it very hard that how would Prime Minister Modi go out, battle out that formidable an alliance. And he still did that. So I personally feel, first of all, Nitish ji has to be a contender to continue as the Bihar CM. That's right. The first challenge. Second is that there are a lot of competing faces on the opposition side which couldn't even come together on very trivial issues, trivial elections like the election of the president or the vice president. They were not all on board even for these inconsequential elections. How do you ever imagine that when so much is at stake, you would imagine Mamata Banerjee coming in, supporting Nitish's stature, or perhaps Jagan, TDP, Chandrababu Naidu, or KCR, or Congress, all joining the same platform. Okay. You've seen how Karnataka elections in 2018, when you saw that all these opposition leaders holding hands together on the eve of the formation of Karnataka government, and what happened after that? Within months, everything disintegrated. So you're saying, because they are perfectly entangled in zero-sum games. They cannot stick together.
You believe it's a zero-sum game. Let's therefore turn that zero-sum game and do some game theory. Let's look at SWOT analysis of the other challengers. And I want to turn to Mamata Banerjee, since Pawan Kumar Verma, you're associated now with the Trinamool Congress, and look at her strengths and weaknesses. Who will challenge Modi? Mamata, only woman CM in the country at the moment, dominates a state with 42 MPs, so a large chunk state that she belongs to, has a pro-poor mass leader image. These are all her strengths, Pawan Verma. Street fighting spirit, has taken on the BJP and won in Bengal last year, but her weaknesses: limited vocabulary in Hindi or English, not seen as an effective communicator, rooted in Bengal, so doesn't have that kind of pan-India appeal, when he would say. Her party faces serious corruption charges. We've seen what happened to Partho Chatterjee recently, accused of promoting family Raj, and she's seen as a mercurial, unpredictable leader, and therefore someone who can't necessarily be trusted. How do you respond? Do you see Mamata Banerjee as that leader? You said no credible challenger. How would you compare a Mamata to a Nitish? You worked with both.
So I think both are grassroots leaders. And Mamata Banerjee has proven her credentials over successive elections. And I think this attempt, which is obviously at the back of the mind of BJP and what Rajat said, to play up the differences within the opposition in the wishful thinking that the opposition will remain ensnared and embroiled in these differences rather than reach a larger unity. And the best way to do it is to ask who will be the leader. I am saying to you, who could have predicted in 1975 that Ajay Prakash Narayan will emerge, who will bring together the opposition in its opposition to the emergency? Who could have predicted in 1987 that with a Rajiv Gandhi with 404 MPs, a VP Singh will emerge? What I'm saying is, politics is dynamic. And basically, you have to look whether there are objective conditions by which there is space for the opposition to say enough is enough, reflecting the will of the people. Without the will of the people, it's not possible. It's machination.
But we've just seen
reflection of the will of the people cannot be arithmetic.
But what Rajat Sethi says is not. It is the reality. The reality is that the opposition remains, dare I say, split wide open. Bihar is an exception.
Indeed, I agree with you. But I am saying that we have 20 months to go to 2024. I am not prophesying anything, but a template has been created in Bihar where the entire opposition has come together against the BJP.
Okay.
Possibly, and there are still formidable challenges on that road ahead. At some point, the opposition realizes that the BJP's strength, whom they oppose, derives from the disunity of the opposition. And therefore, it is important to have a more coherent, pan-Indian, coordinated, grassrooted and strategic unity to take on the BJP.
Okay.
I don't rule it out. Democracy has its own potential and possibility.
So you're still hoping that what happened in Bihar is in a sense a message for the rest of the country. Let's turn therefore to the next contender that I have. Pawan Verma, of course, cleverly avoided who's the better contender between Nitish and Mamata, but that is perhaps the way it is. Let's turn therefore to the next contender, Arvind Kejriwal. Arvind Kejriwal is someone who's seen as a bit of an outlier, has the energies of a startup party, is someone who has been able to have a strong middle class and urban youth connect, is a very effective communicator, totally bilingual in Hindi and English, is also someone who has built an anti-corruption image for himself nationally, and as I said, is a very effective communicator. His weaknesses: Aam Aadmi Party limited to a few pockets at the moment in the country, but in power in 2 states, or 1.5 some would say. He is seen still as a one-person show, doesn't have a strong second line. Arvind Kejriwal is also seen as someone who has very few friends across the political spectrum, bit of a loner in that sense, and his secular image has been questioned in recent times by those within the opposition. Do you see, Sanjay Kumar, someone like Arvind Kejriwal as a challenger, or am I looking at this entire issue based on what's happened in Bihar in a very wrong manner, suggesting almost that what Bihar has done is thrown up a challenger in Nitish? Could there be others? Should we look at 2024 in presidential terms?
I think if BJP is able to convert the 2024 Lok Sabha elections into a presidential kind of an election, BJP will have an upper hand. They still have an upper hand, whether it is a presidential mode of election or not. But your primary question was about Arvind Kejriwal. You listed the plus and the minuses of Arvind Kejriwal. If I go by the popular perception, what do the people on the ground think about who could be the possible challenger to Modi, if not in 2024, but certainly in the long run? I think the one name which is very commonly taken by the common voters on the ground is Arvind Kejriwal, because they see, look at the advantage. Yes, you did mention he has a government in 1.5 states. But look at the other political parties, the leader of other political parties. TMC is just confined in 1 state. JDU is confined in 1 state. This is a man, Aam Aadmi Party is a party which has a government in 2 states. This is a leader, Arvind Kejriwal is a leader who can speak Hindi fluently and acceptable among the urban middle class. So I think going by the common perception of the people, and I also think that in the long run, he, compared to other leaders, he is more suited to emerge as a possible challenger to Modi at the national level. I don't know whether it happens in 2024. I would put a big question mark. It may not happen in 2024, but certainly in the long run, he may emerge as a possible challenger to Narendra Modi at the national level or BJP at the national level.
Is that what your polls are showing also, Professor Kumar? When you do these polls and ask who is best suited to take on Modi, do they say Arvind Kejriwal?
Rajdeep, we have not done any recent poll, but anecdotal small discussions here and there. I think the signals are very clear, to me at least, very, very clear. A lot of people take Arvind Kejriwal's name. They are looking forward to Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party as a possible challenger to BJP at the national level.
Okay, let's turn from there to another interesting face, and Rajat Sethi, right or wrong man to take on this, is Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi, let's look at his strengths and weaknesses. Rahul Gandhi's strengths, the fact is he is the leader of the largest opposition party, not formally but de facto. The Congress and the Gandhis remain a pan-India brand. I don't think anyone can deny that. He's consistently taken on Prime Minister Modi on variety of issues, can claim to offer an alternative left-of-center platform or claim to lead that. What are his weaknesses? Dynasty tag of leadership and seen as someone who's got leadership without necessary performance. He's seen as someone he's a leader of a party that is struggling to take on the BJP in one-on-one fights. He's also seen as someone who hasn't taken any major political or governance responsibility in all these years. He's not seen as a 24/7 politician. These are just some of the many weaknesses that he has. Rajat Sethi, who is it out of all these contenders, and you've been close to the BJP, that the BJP would like to see most projected by the opposition, and who would they like to see the least? Who's their most favored candidate to be a potential challenger, and who's the least?
I think BJP loves the template wherein this dynasty Mukt Bharat template can fit in. Lot of regional parties can actually find themselves trapped into that narrative. That's sort of a moral grandstanding that the BJP always occupies and is able to whip up the passions of common Indians as well as the young Indians that see all these are privileged prince and princelings who are born with silver spoon, and here is one party where you're seeing leaders rising up the ranks.
So you're saying a dynast is the most preferred option for the BJP, and who's the one who's least preferred? Who's the one they're worried about?
I think the least preferred is somewhere around the 90s days of socialism or Samajwad, which still haunts the BJP, and this is one reason why for 30-40 years of BJP's creation, they've never been able to find one truly authentic leader coming in from a state like Bihar.
So therefore Nitish Kumar could be the person? So Nitish Kumar could be old-style socialist?
Maybe not. I personally feel that he is on his waning days and years. He might not be able to excite the masses, but I mean, it has to be an ideological response to BJP, and that ideological response, at least what Bihar is trying to present, is somewhere around the Lohiyawad. They're trying to say that, see, this broad picture of Hindutva that BJP is projecting can be dented by bringing in issues which were at least 20-30-year-old issues around caste-based census, ensuring that there is more division and people, especially belonging to the EBC, OBC, and the
so
Dalits,
it's the last.
Again, rise up.
I've run out of time. I've run out of time, Rajat. It is possibly therefore the last battle. I've positioned as that Bihar is possibly the last Mandal versus Kamandal battle. We don't know whether therefore Bihar is sui generis, or as Pawan Kumar Verma, whether that's wishful thinking, that you believe that what Bihar thinks today, India will think tomorrow. We'll wait and see how that plays out, but at least Bihar has given us a new twist in the dynamic world of Indian politics. Thank you all very much for joining us. You, the viewers, who do you think? Kaun banega challenger in 2024? Do, of course, respond to me on Twitter or on our website and tell us who do you think will be the challenger.